This week on Carlie's Couch, we explore the idea of healing making you less ambitious.
Which sounds crazy. Hello, everybody. Which sounds crazy because, it seems like we're always talking about healing and having ambition, both of those being great things, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to. But first, shout out to all of y'all for answering our question of the week that we shared. What is your most embarrassing guilty pleasure?
Yeah, so you'll see via social from our accounts, from Carlie's Couch, that we're going to go ahead and put the question out there so that we can get responses from you. So we both got quite a few responses to that question, and now we can do this at the top of the episode so y'all can hear what y'all fellow listeners' guilty pleasure is.
I was about to say, because, look, because we can say ours, and that's cool, but I'm trying to know y'all's too, so I'm being a little nosy.
Right. So one of the responses we got said, using Q-tips. I will kick my leg like a dog. And I'm wondering what's embarrassing about using Q-tips, because that's the whole point. Maybe the you kicking your leg like a dog part is the embarrassing part, because maybe your eyes is rolled back. That's what I'm imagining. You got a candle lit, eyes rolled back.
That's me time with a Q-tip.
That's the embarrassing part. But Q-tips, that's what they're made for.
But I wonder if it's more. So yeah, definitely the kick in the leg like a dog, but also maybe more so it's a thing that you do all the time, even if your ears are not, or you go seek pleasure through that. Maybe that could be the guilty, embarrassing part.
It could, but Q-tips are pleasurable, so cool.
Yeah. A couple ones that we had some doubles on, so we know y'all out here watching trash TV.
Right. Big trash TV and movies. So probably watching 90 Day Fiancé, Sister Wives, and watching low budget movies on Tubi. Yeah, I had a couple people say they like watching those low budget movies on Tubi. And I think that is embarrassing, because I'm not going to hold y'all. I do kind of judge people who watch trash TV, or especially when they watch stuff and they know they don't like it or it's trash, but they still feel like they have to watch it. I know somebody like that, and I get on them all the time.
Yeah, I'm judging too. So definitely judging. But another one we got, they said listening to Alanis Morissette. Not sure why. To me, that's a pleasure.
Yeah. Isn't it ironic?
Yeah. I was about to go. That's a great karaoke song.
Yeah, y'all wild out.
Yeah, come on, because I enjoy.
Low key, yeah, that made me have to pull that out on the way back home, because that's some bops.
She be going in.
Yeah, enjoy Alanis Morissette. There's no problem with that. The next one, I'm offended. It was a few people who said some foods that they were embarrassed about, but why are you embarrassed to eat Twizzlers and Slim Jims? Even though those are both very plasticky processed
That's what
foods.
I was about to say, because Twizzlers are plastic. Let's be clear.
But they're good, though. They're good. Not the soft ones are the ones that are trash, but the original hard plastic Twizzler is pretty good. So I was wow, y'all messed up my whole gas station run with that. And then mayo with French fries, that's not embarrassing. That's cultured.
I was about to say aioli, which is mayo's cousin, is delightful with French fries.
Aioli is mayo, just with some seasoning in it. Mayo with French fries is cool.
Yeah.
But I guess we shouldn't be here trying to just judge all of y'all's things. However, I think that these are not embarrassing. And maybe because y'all had y'all name on them or whatever, y'all, felt some kind of way. Because then I got a few sex related ones too. And I'm like, all right, guys, I don't know if this y'all embarrassed guilty pleasure or if y'all was trying to put a hint out.
We're absolutely trying to put a hint out.
Yeah, so absolutely trying to put a hint out.
It's I'm so embarrassed unless you're down too.
Right. Sure would hate for you to pin me down. All right.
Man.
Oh no. Oh no. My drawers fell down. Anyway, yeah, thanks for responding though.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, and I think it's interesting to hear some of the same things from a few people. Carlie, what's your most embarrassing guilty pleasure?
So I'm so glad that I had time to ponder this, because I was like, what really is embarrassing? Okay, so y'all gonna judge me, and that's okay, because I judge myself. Yes, sometimes I still do it, not as frequently as I used to.
It's not embarrassing if we're not judging.
I know, that's why I'm like. So, okay, whenever I have a random memory of somebody in middle school or high school, I'm like, I wonder if they're in jail, and I look them up on the Oklahoma City Police Department. You can look up offenders, and so
that's funny, actually.
Oh man, yeah, and I definitely get made fun of for this by multiple of my friends because they're like, man, I wonder what happened to Soul. You know he's in jail? Like, bitch, how you know that?
Yeah, I've been Googling people.
Being nosy for no reason. It doesn't matter. Like, Carlie, stop that.
Yeah, that reminds me of my youngest brother. I don't know where this even came from, but anytime we'd be like, hey, man, y'all remember Quintavious? Like, what happened to him? He'd be like, probably doing 10 to 20. Like, that was his answer. That if we asked him about anybody, he'd be like, yeah, probably doing 5 to 15. Like, okay. Like, why are these people in jail? I'm sorry about that, guys.
And I hate that they're in jail, and the system is terrible. But like I said, sometimes
I hate that the people you look up are actually in jail, but okay.
I mean, there were signs from early. So you
already knew. You were like, let me look there.
Yeah, a couple of them. Right? They have never tried to add me on Facebook. I wonder, or they'll add me on Facebook. That's actually what started it. Is somebody added me who I hadn't talked to in years, and we were just chopping it up. Nothing like anything like that. Just like, oh, how you been? He's like, yeah, if you ever want to write me. And then he sent me his address in jail, and I was like, oh, damn.
Damn, my Facebook.
Like, you ain't never tell me. Yeah, but then in my head, I was like, I wonder if so and so's in prison, and that's kind of how it started.
Dang, that's a slippery slope.
And it's terrible because Oklahoma will tell you what they did and how many years they have and all that stuff.
Yeah, actually, yeah, for most people, even if you just at the point of doing a mugshot, they'll tell you what your stuff is. So it is kind of rough out here.
What about you?
Mine is actually, I think, embarrassing. So my embarrassing guilty pleasure, something I like to do, is you know the skin around your big toe, like around the top of the big toe, that's like nice and plush and luscious. So I probably haven't in a while because I actually get pedicures, but I like to either, if I'm clipping my nails, like I'll clip the extra like skin part off.
Yeah.
And or I will bite my toenails with my teeth, like and tear that piece off. But the part that's embarrassing that I love to do, I like chewing on that. So I told you, mine's actually embarrassing. I like chewing on like callous skin and like the thick pieces of skin. Which usually for me is around my feet area.
Most people.
So blah blah blah. Y'all didn't really hear that. All right, let's talk.
Well, real quick, what's funny is I know that I can actually bite that off because I've tried before to see if I could get it when I was little. But
getting that right in that little corner part, biting it. I used to be like. I love, like, if I peel off like a big piece of callus or something, I chew on it. And when I clip my nails, sometimes I chew on it.
It's like cannibal beef jerky.
Yeah. That's why I like Slim Jim. So here we are. Here we are. So now that you know way too much about my personal life.
Man.
Yeah. So let's talk about healing. Let's talk about the healing journey.
We're going to get into it, but thank y'all for participating. We're going to be posting up the question this week. So please answer again so we can all judge each other and laugh together. So this week's episode was inspired. Someone sent me a TikTok, actually, and we're like, hey, what do you think about this? And the man's premise was that the more you heal, the less ambitious you are. And he used an example with George Washington Carver, who was saying that when he was little, he always wanted these gingerbread cookies. Because this white girl had gingerbread cookies. Like, the white girls, for some reason, always had gingerbread cookies. And he's like, I'll know that I'm a free person when I can have gingerbread cookies. And he, like, associated this goal in his life or in his head, this, like, thing as, like, him being free and all that. And so the man used that as his premise, which is maybe not what I would have used. But I think that that's an interesting prospect to really think about. Like,
wait, but I didn't even get how that was healing and ambition.
So his is more so sometimes the goals that we set or the things that we do come from a place of trauma or stem from something else. And so, for example, like George Washington Carver's was not necessarily healing and ambition, but he had a goal that was from his trauma. And he was like, I will know that I'm free, or whatever the quote was. Do not quote me because I just watched the TikTok. But basically, like, whenever I have these gingerbread cookies. And so for me, that made me start to think about, like, how many things in my life did I think that I wanted or, you know, symbolize success that were really, like, not from a place of success or might have been badly motivated. Like I said, it's not the best example, but I'm just explaining the TikTok.
I was thinking something totally different.
No, you're thinking the right thing, but I'm saying the guy went left and gave this random example. I'm just trying to describe the TikTok.
So does this example work? Because this is how I was thinking about it. When I hear you say, like, the more you heal, the less ambitious you become. What that made me think about was perhaps it is like, well, and now I might be getting to my answers, but like perhaps it is the way that
you are, some people are just super hard worker and they're doing the most and they want this and I want to get this and I want to get that. But then as they heal and maybe they realize like, oh, I don't have to work 40 hours. Yeah. I guess not 40 hours a day, but 20 hours a day, or I can go to sleep, or it's okay for me to like log off at 5, or they start to maybe put themselves first in more different ways. That what I was thinking about that statement is that, the more you're actually healing and putting yourself first and like uncovering perhaps traumas and why are you doing things the way you do and all of that, perhaps you care less about like, oh, I need to get this big job, or I care about making X amount of money, because you actually kind of like being more like, oh, I'm straight, I'm chilling, like I'm not as pushed. And that a lot of times it's our traumas that are like our motivators, are like pushing us towards certain things. That's kind of what I was thinking
exactly
about.
What it is.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I was solely using that thing because he definitely said it in the TikTok, but that is what it is. And it really made me think about it like, I've been on a healing journey for 10 years. Like, am I less ambitious? And so I think maybe it's important to start with like, what is ambition?
So when I think about ambition, I think about it more than like just saying like, oh, you have a goal. Like if a person has ambition, to me that means like you're willing to do what it takes, and like you're like, this is something that your purpose and like why you're moving to make this happen, and it comes with a lot of hard work. So to me, it's almost like a little bit more than like a goal or something you just want to achieve. Because if you're ambitious, you are also determined, and like you're just like hardworking. To me, an ambitious person is a hardworking. They're doing things to get to something.
Yeah, I like that definition, and I do agree that it's a step beyond just a goal, because you can have goals and them not mean shit. But like if you are ambitious, you have the action and the mindset to kind of help you get those things too, and you kind of look at life like that.
Or if you're ambitious, like an ambitious person is somebody you can ask them about like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And they have like the whole plan. Like they know exactly, I'm trying to start this studio, and then I want to be the next Disney, and then I want to see this and this and this. Like they have these very like high level goals is what I think of. What about for you?
That is kind of like a fire to achieve in the same sense. Like maybe not as, so for me, it's like maybe not as like defined out goals and like that plan, but like they have an overarching like expansive goal. Like I want to be this type of person. I want to live this type of life. I want to have this type of thing. And then they have the kind of fire lit under them that like keeps them going down that path, even when it's hard. Like if you want to get to the NBA, or if you want to be the president, or whatever you want to
like
be.
Kobe Bryant was ambitious.
1,000,000%. Mamba mentality.
So in the same way, though, I think one very common string about somebody who's ambitious is like they work a lot. Like they work or they practice, or like I think that's why I'll be like, wow, that person's ambitious, because they're doing so much. So that now kind of going back to what we were saying about, well, what does that mean to say like, as you heal, you become less ambitious. That's where kind of my thought was like, are you kind of doing a little bit less? Like you're not as pressed to like go as hard. It's kind of what I was thinking. But then the actual definition, I was surprised it actually was pretty clear to like what we're saying. The actual definition of ambition is strong desire to do or achieve something, usually requiring determination and hard work. So like I think people who are ambitious, their desire is so strong, like you can't really stop them from like doing what they're going to do.
Yeah, they're not deterred. And so now that we have like a foundational, clear-cut definition and kind of understanding of ambition, like does the idea...
Does it make sense?
Yeah, does it make sense? For me, yes and no. So I'll say yes in the example used. I think that's a really great one. But I'll add the caveat. So the example Lex used earlier about, if you are, burning the candle at both ends and you think you have to do all these things to achieve your goals, when you start healing, you realize that that's actually not the best way to show up in the world for yourself, and that you actually have to rest and exercise and spend time in the sunshine and do all of those things. But I'll add the thought about like your perspective of when you set some of those goals being rooted in a space of trauma. And so what I mean by that is like, when I was little, I just remember not being in a good home situation. And I was like, I'm going to do everything that I can to not live like this. Like, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be perfect. And that put so much pressure on myself that, like, I mean, I was a great student. I was great at everything that I did, winning all the awards, getting all the accolades, going to college, literally doing all the things. But then, as I'm unlearning, as I get older, I'm recognizing that mindset, like, that was trying to save me and was very hopeful, doesn't have to look like that in the same way. I still think I'm really ambitious, and there's still so many things that I want to do. But now I'm unlearning the sense, like, oh, I don't have to be perfect to do that. So I don't know if that.
Wait, just because what was the actual thing that you were telling yourself, though? Oh, you said because my home life was kind of tumultuous, I want to do everything in my power to not repeat that with my home life.
I refuse to be that person when I get older.
So what you're saying, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But when that results in, like, now you are a perfectionist, there's all of the, like, downsides to that, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So as you've healed, or as you're healing in that space, have you become less ambitious?
And so that's what I'm saying. No.
Or
so
this
is the no part. It's the less hard on myself. And what that means is, like, I think I'm just in general an ambitious person, like, healing or not. But what I am unlearning is that my goal of being perfect was what I thought I had to be to get out of a situation. And then I was really mean to myself. And it's just been really hard on myself. And I don't have to live life like that. So as I've healed, my goals have changed. But I still would say that I'm really ambitious.
But does the idea in general make sense to you, though, that a person who is healing is going to be less ambitious? Does that make sense to you? Or are you saying it sounds like less about that being yes or no and more about, as a person heals, they are healthier in their ambition or something?
Exactly. So that's a perfect way to put it.
So you don't want to say they're less ambitious because they're still ambitious. It's just in a healthier way.
It's just in a much healthier way. Yeah, they're, like, channeling that energy in a much healthier way, and or, like, losing the goals that you're working towards. Because if you're like fueled on, like, jealousy, or not jealousy, but, like, rage, like somebody fucked you over, right? And you're like, I'm gonna prove them wrong, these motherfuckers, you know. But then you heal and you're like, oh wow, I don't have to do that anymore. Like, wow, this has been misdirected. You could take all that energy and go somewhere else with it.
I feel like I had never thought about this until you brought it up with that Tick Tock and this up as a topic for discussion. But, and it probably really is, like, a multi-layered thing, kind of the way you thought about it. But just from, like, the surface of it, I understand the sentiment that I could see that a healed person, or a person who is healing, may be less ambitious. And I say that, though, because I feel like as you're healing, a lot of things matter less. And if they matter less, you're not feeling as pushed to be so ambitious about it. You may want to make sure you can take care of yourself, but you may not feel like I need $20 million anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, I'm like, okay, cool. When I hear that makes sense. But then I also can think of people. So, like, one of the podcasts I like listening to sometimes, because sometimes he's, like, a little too ambitious, is, like, Tom Bilyeu's.
Oh yeah.
Because, like, he's, like, real, like, hardcore. And actually the last one I was just listening to, it was like a part 1 and part 2, was just him, like, going on and on about, like, basically how he optimizes himself, his life, like, you know, his sleep, all these things. Like, he's hardcore about, like, how he looks at his life to get what he wants to get. And also, I would say, at least from what it seems like and from what he talks about, and, you know, him having conversation with people, that he has been on his own, like, healing journey, and yet, like, he is very much ambitious. And it's like, I don't stop. Like, when he's awake, he's like, when I'm awake, I'm only working out or working. So I'm like, I don't know if that means if somebody's ambitious, overly ambitious, that they are not healing either. But I can for sure understand the concept that as you're healing, you might become less ambitious, because you might healing, I think. So, like, now if we talk about, like, okay, well, what is healing? I think, because what makes sense for me and why I'm answering the way I'm answering is because, to me, healing is being more okay with you, with life, with things. And, like, the more okay you become, I feel like some of that other stuff falls away. So, That's why I think it makes sense to me. But now in your own life, Carlie, have you noticed, because even with your example you just gave, you're like, oh, I realize I don't have to be perfect, but like you're still probably doing the things you need to do. I guess what would you even think you're the most ambitious about, if you even consider yourself ambitious? Because I might even not as much anymore. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's a comparison to other people. I don't know. But like, if you are ambitious, if you consider yourself like that in any particular area, have you seen that change? Like, as you've healed, have you seen yourself like not have the same ambitions and not be as ambitious? And by that, I think I'm kind of talking about like the process of saying like you go hard, like you're working really hard for something.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I would still say I'm an ambitious person. Like, I just have a very expansive mindset, and I know I can do whatever I want to. And there's a lot of things I want to do and have fun. But it's definitely changed. Like, my complete like vision and focus. Like, I used to feel like I wanted to help people, and then I learned you can't really help people. You help yourself, and that's how you help people. And so then I was really like turn all my focus on me. But then I became like, there's the perfectionism, but like very ambitious about that. But now I'm like softer on myself. But I would still say I'm ambitious. I just like in a much healthier way in all the areas, because I'm ambitious about work. I'm ambitious about like having great relationships and great friendships, about traveling the world, about exploring and doing all the things that I enjoy and love. Still very much like it's just gonna happen. But the goals might be different, and how it manifests, like it's a much safer, softer, braver space for myself in this ambition.
Mm-hmm. And so even as you were answering, I actually about to contradict myself in what I was just saying earlier, because I think I can think of a place where I have gotten more ambitious, and then in some spaces less. So in regards to, but is it really less? Because what happened is, over my time of like healing, so I would say that stuff like the therapy and just understanding things that, you know, work better for me, and mindset shifts and all this and that. I don't know if I was ever super ambitious about work as much as I'd always been in survival mode with work for a long time. Because I even like on my personal site, one of my first blog posts I wrote about was like plot twist, I'm lazy. Like I don't like working. I'm never, I mean, I could be down bad, but like I'm gonna do what I need to do, but I'm not a like grind all day type person, worker, and I don't think I really have ever been. But that being said, it's still in the space of like work stuff, I am a little bit less ambitious, maybe, or I don't know if I just don't. Even not having to do the same things, still, like, if I was more ambitious, I think that, actually, I don't know if this is a positive thing. I think I would like to be a little bit more ambitious in that, being very, very clear about what I want to get to and going much harder to get to that. And yet, because of, like, where I am, I really enjoy and prioritize relaxing. I prioritize, like, not wanting to feel stressed out and all of that. And so I am making the decision to get to those spaces in that way, which is probably similar to like how you were saying. Now, in another space, though, I would say like in the space of relationships, that has changed a lot for me as far as communication. In the last like couple of years, I've learned so much about communication, and I have very, very, very intentionally practiced better communication and jumping into conflict. Like I love the opportunities I get to speak up now. Like I yelling on the phone this morning. And I'm going to dinner tonight, so you got to say what you got to say. But that being said, but I am, that is a place where I was healing, because I'm realizing like, oh, I need to communicate better. I listen a lot better. I have more, even my friend Kyle, oh my gosh, the other day, I was telling him, I was like, am I tripping for thinking this? Like, you know, sometimes you just got to bounce something off somebody. Yeah. And at the end of, he was like, first of all, you need to thank your therapist, because that was very cohesive. And like, I was laying out, you know, the things, and like, well, I thought this, and then this, and then this. And like, so I, you know, I'm not just like being reactive, or I'm not just like whatever. So I've worked very hard on that. And because of that, I think I am a little more ambitious about paying attention to how I speak, or paying attention to how I express my needs, or, you know, things like that in regards to communication, being honest, all that stuff. excuse me. So yeah, in some of those places, yes, I don't know how to explain that or like what that really means, but I think that maybe the question or the statement isn't necessarily about you become more or less ambitious, but like as you are healing, you're turning up on the things that you need to turn up on, and some things you don't.
Beautiful. That's what I was
but
about
it
to
makes
say.
sense when people first, like, immediately when I first saw this, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like when you start kind of chilling and you feel good about yourself and happy, you don't.
But for me, like, that's not a less ambitious thing. It's just you're changing what matters. And a lot of people might say you're not ambitious if you're not trying to, you know, get a promotion or get more money or do the things that like society says matters, or the traditional things that people do. Like they might question your ambition there because it's a lot harder to quantify, or I don't know if it's quantitative or qualitative data, but when it comes to like yourself, like being ambitious about being a better communicator, about healing and things like that. So I think it's less about like healing not being ambitious, which, you know what, you might turn into Eckhart Tolle and sit on a park bench and just want to be present, but then he's super ambitious about being present. Mm-hmm. So you can't say that he's not ambitious. He's just hella ambitious about being present.
But let's also make sure we're clear that everybody's not ambitious.
For sure.
So yes, like he may not care about like, oh, I need to make $1 million this year. But if you're somebody who does not, like, who does go to work, like you don't really care about getting things done, you don't care about your next raise or whatever, like you're not ambitious, and that's okay too. Like that's its own thing. So I want to make sure we're not confusing like being ambitious and not. But for somebody who is ambitious in a certain area, what it sounds like I'm also hearing you say is like, it doesn't have to be in one space. Like it can be, you know, whatever you're intentionally kind of focused on, that's you being ambitious about that.
Yeah, and I actually have a little exercise.
Or whatever you're practicing, I guess.
I have a little exercise for y'all this week. It's kind of think through like your goals and ambitions, and like if that's something you keep track of, right? So if you are an ambitious person, or maybe a little bit, and you just want to like look at your life, think about the things that have been really big goals for you in the past, or things that you've been really ambitious about, and then kind of look at like now. Is it the same as it was? So I used to want to be an engineer. I was going to build my own house. I wanted to be a project manager. Want to do this, want to do this. Don't want to do that shit anymore, although I probably still will design and build a house. But I, you know, want to use my talents and teach more and help more and speak more and do it in a different way. And so I think healing really opens you up to focusing on the things that really matter to you. And then if you're an ambitious person, then you're more ambitious in those areas. And so for you at home.
That's fair. Because I might not even really been but so ambitious the whole time anyway.
That's what I was like. So think about the things that have been big focuses. And then also maybe question why. If you've never questioned why, like something has been such a big goal in your life, like I want you to sit with that, because it could come from trauma or ego, or you trying to prove that you're good enough or whatever. And I just want all of us to make sure that we're focusing our energy on the things that really matter to us, not the things that we try to do to save ourselves when we were little kids, or to try to get back at somebody because they hurt our feelings, you know? And I think that that's kind of like recentering on the healing part, is like, where do our ambitions come from?
Yeah, and that's really, really good homework and something to think about, because at the end of the day, similar to what you said about not wanting to see your family life this way leads you to perfectionism. I think a lot of us end up in perfectionism space because of like, oh, you need to prove this to your parents, or to this or to that, or you don't want to be in a certain space. And I think to be an ambitious person in general sometimes comes from some of that. And it's like, what made you feel like, or what taught you or what showed you that you had to do so much, or that you had to achieve your way through, or that you had to be perfect? And once you start thinking about that, it starts to make sense. And then it's like going through this process of like, well, is that true? Like, do I have to do that to be this? And where you do or don't is like, whatever, that's on, you know, your own discovery. But now you can think about your ambition and how that shows itself to the world. And I think now it's like, okay, well, do you like that or not? Like, if you like that, some people are like that. Like some people might like, you know, spend an hour playing basketball every day in their front yard because they want to practice for whatever. Some people might like doing extra work or whatever, and some people don't. So it's like, all right, are you ambitious just to be ambitious, or is like, are you ambitious because now this is the thing that you love, care about, whatever? And I think it just makes more sense to focus it there. So that is a good point to think about. So then as we kind of wrap up the episode, then if there is this thought that, well, as you're more okay with yourself, you're okay and you're not as pressed about everything. You may not go as hard. How can we maintain success and achievement as we heal if we're that type of person?
That's a really good question. I would say focusing on on how you feel. So like making sure you're doing all the things that we talk about weekly to take care of yourself. And then also checking in, like Lexi said, like, is this something, like just evaluating your decisions and actions. Like, is this something I actually want to do? Why am I doing this? Do I really want to be in this relationship? And that kind of keeps, your car or your like energy vehicle as you're moving forward, it keeps it in alignment if you're checking yourself and making sure like that it feels good, that it's actually something that you want. Those are pretty much the two questions. Do you have any other thoughts on like how you can maintain success like as you're healing? If you even want to.
Well, I guess now it's kind of like what you said. I'm thinking now to where, yes, you may feel a little more healed. Like I may feel more okay. Like, oh, I don't have to go extra hard on work, and yet knowing what you do care about and what those values are, I think that it's still a thin line. And this is kind of where I am, where I still like. People ask like, oh, where do you see the company in 3 years? Like I like kind of going with the flow, and yet I know when I do have actual kind of more of something to visualize or like a goal, I'm more bound to kind of at least move in a direction. Mm-hmm. And so I don't necessarily think going with the flow is a good long-term strategy. It can kind of help you feel okay each day, but I think I still would like, you still maintain your success because you still have to think about, well, where do you want to be, or who do you want to be? Like, who do you want to be and how does that person live? And so if the person I want to be does have this big space or doesn't have to ever worry about a bill, if the person I want to be can go on a trip at any point and not have to think about it, then, I probably need to be making more money. And so, like, it's now just, like, still thinking about, like, all right, what needs to get done? And now, like, well, let me still set goals to be this person or to live this life as the person I want to live. And I don't know if that's really saying a whole lot, but like you just have to reframe what you're coming up with as far as the goals, because it's not just like, $1 million or like, it's not just that. It's just like, I want to be able to do what? And as a healing person, like, and I like relaxing, like I want to be able to take a month off whenever I want type thing, and like, what would that require? And now turning that into what does that look like for real life?
Like every day, what can I do? What steps can I take to be this person that, I want to be, to continue to do this? Like what would idealized Carlie be doing today? And sometimes, resting is necessary, but sometimes you need to get your ass up and do what you need to do and get stuff done. And I think it's finding a balance and really being honest with yourself. Like, all right, I've been resting these past 3 days. Now I'm just like avoiding things and being lazy or, whatever's going on. But when you know yourself, it's a lot easier to make those moves and to take those steps, and also to know what you really want. Like when you are in this healed space, they're like, oh man, I really do just want to be able to get up and, which is also on my list, and go whenever I want to. What does that require? And doing it. That is the ambition to get you there.
Yeah. Yeah. But being ambitious does still mean, I think, like, being hardworking and determined to get there. So it's just, I think, more aligned to be hardworking because of what you enjoy and who you are, as opposed to who you think you have to be.
That's the clip right there. So hit us this week at Carlie's Couch. Let us know what you think about healing and ambitions as you are on your healing journey. Have you noticed a shift in your goals and your ambitions? If you completely disagree with us, please let us know. Hit us at Carlie's Couch.
If you're not healed, just work on that first.
Talk to yourself.
I can't even participate.
At Carlie's Couch.
Practice. It's all a practice.
Yeah, and every day is just one step at a time.
Yeah. Alrighty, and so now at the end of the episode, we'll put our question of the week out there, so you can start to think about it. Let us know. You can leave an answer anywhere if you see this before you see it online. But then we'll also post the question, like we said up top. We'll also post a question on IG. I don't know about Twitter, the way Elon moving, but,
bro, what the hell?
That's
too much something Twitter going on today.
Clipped. But yeah, look for the question later on from Carlie and Lex. I said that like I was a third person.
She got her clone here today.
And then what's your IG is CC Fierce.
CC Fierce.
Yeah, so CC Fierce, and I'm Lex_Topia. So the question of the week is, what is the last lie that you told?
And don't be lying.
Yeah, don't be lying. What's the last lie you told? So whenever you're hearing this or whenever you see it, think about the last lie.
Yeah, let us know, and then we'll answer next week.
Hope you have a great week. Peace out.
In a bit.